Hi everyone, this is Sophie here from Team Singapore. I'm a para swimmer, and today I have Active Health Coach Kenneth with me, and we're going to continue our series on Stress Better. So today I'll be asking Kenneth some questions about any stress-related questions that I have from in my personal life, and we'll be addressing some questions that you have submitted earlier this week. So hi Kenneth. Hi.
Hi Sophie.
Yeah. Hi. So so just to give you a quick profile about myself. I am training full time. I swim about 7 to 8 times a week, and I have about 3 gym sessions within the week as well. And on top of that, I do also work with Toyota Motor Asia Pacific as a marketing executive. So I do have quite a lot on my plate, and that can generate quite a lot of stress. I think the first thing I would like to ask you about, coming back, since I recently actually just started competing again, competitions are starting up again, and I am facing quite a bit of stress on that side as an athlete, with a lot of coping with going back into competition again. Haven't competed in over a year. How do you think I can better manage my stress in this way, being that I do have some expectations for myself, and I feel coaches and maybe even my family may have some expectations for me, and I would like to know better how I can manage this stress.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Maybe before I dive into answering your question, can I have permission just to ask you how are you feeling right now today? How do you feel?
I feel all right. I actually might have a competition in 2 to 3 weeks. So that is burning at the back of my mind constantly. And I think recently I have been having a bit of restless sleep because of the anxiety coming back of competing. I'm definitely excited for sure to compete again. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward for more competitions to come this year. But I think that hand in hand comes with a bit more stress as well. So I think that comes with that's where I am today. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the first thing I'm hearing from what you're saying there is, you're feeling a little bit more stressed because of the competition that's coming up in a couple of weeks. You're also excited about it.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I think that's a great way to start this conversation, because stress, the word stress, it's used a lot in different ways for many different people. We use stress as a noun and an adjective. So I'm feeling stressed, or something is stressing me out. And a lot of people, myself included, and yourself and your fans that are watching this, may misunderstand stress, or automatically think of stress as something bad. But actually, stress, if we think of it in a physiological way, it's not good or bad. It's just, it is what it's your body trying to respond. So from a physiological standpoint, the stress response was actually designed to help us survive as human beings as we evolved. So if you see a threat, if something is a threat to your existing, so let's say one of your ancestors thousands of years ago was walking along in the jungle, and they see a tiger, and that triggers the stress response because they think, oh no, I'm going to get eaten here. And what happens then is the body prepares to either fight the threat or flee, run away as fast as they can. And what do you need for those actions? You need energy. So your body releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and they prepare you for activity. So sometimes when you feel like you're under threat, if something is concerning you about a certain event, it's because your body is naturally responding to this perceived threat. And the response is not a bad thing. So if ever you feel like your heart is elevated, it's beating out of your chest, or your palms are a little bit sweaty, that's just your body getting ready for physical activity and exercise. And what you have going for you as opposed to maybe someone watching this call that doesn't exercise a lot, is that you actually do exercise frequently. So you get to use those stress hormones for what they were designed for. And maybe someone who's sitting in an office for 8 hours a day doesn't. So they have, there's this buildup of hormones, your body's preparing to exercise, and you cannot, you don't have the opportunity to exercise. And that can result in one side of your central nervous system being more activated. So when you mention not being able to sleep, that's linked back to this stress response. If you're going to sleep, but your body is primed for exercise, that's why maybe you're finding it hard to nod off and fall asleep. And that's why sometimes your mind can race, because your body is primed for exercise, because you have that natural human stress response. And you know, when you're lying in bed, it's not a time that you'd usually exercise. So what I'm getting at here is that when we think of stress, we automatically think that it's a bad thing, but maybe we can reframe the way we think about stress to say, hey, I'm stressed because I care about whatever this issue is. I care about this competition. So in a way, my body's trying to give me that extra bit of energy to make sure that I can cope and I can get through. So if we can reframe the way we think about stress as, okay, as soon as I feel my heart rate elevated or my palms become sweaty or I feel a little bit sleepless at night, it's not automatically a bad thing. Actually, you could look at it as a positive thing in that I care about this event and my body's trying to help me overcome it. So actually I'm responding just as I should respond. Now, one way that maybe you could improve your sleep is to activate the other side of your nervous system. So we each have two sides of the nervous system. One is the excitatory side, the fight or flight. That's the one that will elevate your heart rate, release the hormones, the adrenaline, the cortisol, which you use in stressful situations or situations that you think are stressful. And when you're competing, that's really helpful. The other side is the rest and digest side that generally kicks in after you exercise. Or it kicks in when you're feeling relaxed, when you're having a warm bath, when you're reading a book, when you're spending time with loved ones. And what we need to do is we need to bump up this side of the nervous system so that it doesn't get dominated by the excitatory side. And one way that you can do that, which may or may not work for you, is to try some deep breathing exercises. And there's a simple activity that requires no real time commitment or no physical equipment. It's called a box breathing technique. Have you ever heard of this technique?
If I remember it correctly, is it the 4-7-8 breathing technique?
Yeah, there's a 4-7-8. There's also a 4-4-4. And okay. The 4-4 is the one that I would practice with the guys who I see in the Active Health Labs more than the 4-7-8. But both have the same outcome. And the outcome is that through that deep breathing, you're stimulating what's known as your vagus nerve. And that, when it's stimulated, will activate your rest and digest system and suppress the excitatory system. So the box breathing is something that you could use as a Team Singapore athlete, or maybe someone watching this call could use it as a working adult. If they're feeling overwhelmed or stressed, it's just that one side of their nervous system is a bit more active. It's not a bad thing. Actually, it's a good thing because it shows that you're responding to the threat and trying to cope. But the technique that you can use is to try that box breathing to recover. So maybe if you're okay, we could do this together now, just so we can show the guys watching the call what it looks like. Are you happy to try that?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you can just listen to the sound of my voice. And some people find it helpful to close their eyes and lean back in the chair they're sitting in and plant their feet on the floor. And for anyone watching the call, you can maybe do this as you're watching, and we can do 2 to 3 repetitions. So it's as simple as taking a deep breath in through your nose and doing that for 4 seconds. Then holding it for 4 seconds and then exhaling for 4 seconds. So Sophie, are you okay if we try this now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So you can lean back, get yourself comfortable, and on my count from 3 to 1, we'll start. So in 3, 2, 1, okay, you can start inhaling now, deep through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale again, deep through the nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do 2 more rounds. Inhale again for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Last one now. Deep breath in through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you can gently come back to the call now. So maybe for yourself, how does that feel for you?
Definitely feel a lot more relaxed than I was before this.
Yeah, it's something that's quite easy, but we don't do it that often. Actually, when we're stressed, sometimes we tend to have these short, shallow breaths where we're trying to do 50 things at once. And the simple deep breathing exercises can work to help you feel calm. But the physiology behind that is that you're activating your rest and digest side of the nervous system through the vagus nerve that connects the heart to the brain. So
Okay.
that's one possible technique that you can use.
All right. Yeah, that's a great technique. Thanks so much, Kenneth.
Yep. Yeah, Sophie, I'd also like to say that on top of that, you exercise very frequently. For those of the guys who are looking at this call who don't exercise, exercise is also one form of activating your rest and digest system, but a certain type of exercise. So moderate intensity, light to moderate intensity, aerobic exercise can help with that. It does it in a different way. So shortly after you stop exercising, the rest and digest system is activated. But for those on the call who don't exercise frequently, that's another strategy that you can use to balance out your stress response if you're feeling like your sleep is affected, or your heart rate is constantly elevated, or your palms are sweaty, or you have butterflies in your tummy, or you're focusing on a situation that you're struggling to think you can cope with.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much, Kenneth. Actually, my next question may actually be related to some people on this call right now, who might be looking into exercising more. Like I mentioned before, I do work, and multitasking can be quite a challenge for myself as well, having to juggle both, the stress of work and training at the same. You could offer to help me better manage the stress that I have trying to juggle both work and training. And maybe this could help someone who is thinking about training, picking up a sport, but they also have the struggles of trying to balance their work and maybe their family at home as well. So what are some tips and tricks that you may have for us that can help us better manage our time, and also or even also manage the stress that may come along with trying to juggle so many things at once?
Yeah. Thanks. The first thing I'd say, Sophie, is that you're definitely not alone. I mean, for those callers who are feeling the same, you're not alone. In Singapore, it's this balance of personal life, of work life, of hobbies or commitments is real for everybody. And as we develop, in every developed country, I think it's real. What I would say is I don't think there's a one size fits all response. For you, I might ask, has there ever been a time in the past when you leveraged on certain strengths that you have to manage or balance tasks? Has there ever been a time in the past when you faced a similar challenge and you managed to overcome it?
Yeah. I think thankfully now my work is actually not too bad. I do still face some stress, but thankfully Toyota has given me a flexible working schedule where I can arrange my hours according to my training schedule. So in that sense, my training does come first, but on top of that, I still have work to do. But actually, prior to working at Toyota, I was a full-time student. I was doing a diploma in business management, and my final year was particularly difficult for me because there was a lot of work to do, and trying to get the best grade that you can possibly can before you leave school. And that really wasn't easy. And I think managing my schoolwork and training at the same time was quite difficult. Ultimately, what I resulted in was prioritizing, and I was looking between the two. Okay, which at this current point in time would be more important for me. And being that I knew I was going to finish school in a few months, I took school as a priority at that time. So I definitely had to put training back on hold to put it in the back seat for a while I focused on my studies for the next few weeks and months leading up to my examinations. But the minute that was over, I went back into training full time again. And I think that has been the strategy that I've been using for a while. I'm not sure if it's the ideal strategy, but it seems to work for me. So that's what I've been doing.
That's great. And what I'm hearing there is you used your strength of organization. So you said prioritizing. It's coming across to me on the call that you're an organized individual. And if that's a time in the past when you looked at that and you thought, okay, it's a similar situation, and I had this strength of organization that helped me prioritize my tasks, and that's something that you can build on and leverage on. It helps to reflect on similar situations. For anyone on the call, we all have different strengths, and what might work for you, Sophie, in terms of your organization skills might be different for me, or for Gina, or for Alex, or for whoever's dialing into the call. So my response, I guess, would be, if you could become aware of what your strengths are as an individual, and be aware of them, so you know what you can lean on to manage your work life. So, for example, I sent a values and action questionnaire to you yesterday to try and identify some of your strengths. And what we can do is we can post the link to that questionnaire underneath wherever this call is going to be posted out, so the viewers can also try it out. And it can be really helpful to actually figure out what your strengths are, or reflect on what your strengths are. And then when you're facing a challenging situation, like trying to balance your work and your home life, look at your strengths and say, okay, well, how can I use this strength to help me in this challenge? And I guess that would apply to different types of challenges. So it's not a one size fits all. I'm hearing from you that your strength of organization helped you in the past with this situation. And that may be something that we could work on if we were to have subsequent calls on how to use that strength of organization to tease out and brainstorm and put in place an action plan for you to help you with the challenge that you're facing. So in short, reflecting and understanding what your strengths are, and then leaning into those strengths when you face a challenge, can be a really powerful way to not only cope with that challenge, but thrive in the face of that challenge.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks so much for that tip, Kenneth. I think maybe we can move on to some of the questions that some of my followers sent me on Instagram. So one of the questions was asked how would we teach stress to a younger athlete? I think he's a coach, and he's coaching younger new budding athletes, and I think he wants to spread the message on how he can better teach younger children how to cope with stress. Yep.
That's so you cannot, if you're looking to I mean, the first thing I'm hearing from that is a desire to coach and improve one of the younger athletes, and that's first of all something I'd like to acknowledge, and I think it's really cool. There's some great materials that you can read up on stress, to understand it more. And stress is misunderstood by a lot of people. The way we use the word stress, there's different uses and connotations to it. Now, if we're talking about the physical response to stress, which my background as an exercise physiology is where I'm most comfortable, there's a great book called The End of Stress as We Know It by Bruce McEwen. That's a resource that this coach could read up on or listen to on audio. And then when you have an understanding of the body's physiological response to stress, it makes it easier then to break it down in a digestible way for your younger athlete. So earlier on, I spoke about the stress response where we have two sides of the nervous system. One way that you could explain that to a younger athlete is you could imagine your body as a car. And if you're going down the motorway, you've got the accelerator and the brake. And just like a car, when you press the accelerator, your body prepares for physical activity and exercise. And that's your stress response. If you put the accelerator down on full whack, eventually the car will burn out and break down. So you don't want the stress response on all the time. You don't want to be in that state of activation all the time. Now, the brake is the rest and digest side. You don't want to put the brake fully flat down because then the car will never move. So you can think of our stress response as it's like a car. You need to touch the accelerator and you need to touch the brake at certain times. Both sides are needed, which means that we need stress. We need stress as human beings, that physiological stress, to survive, to get by on a day-to-day basis, maybe to give you that extra edge in a competition. But you also need the brake, and the brake needs to be applied at certain times. So after you compete, Sophie, for you, afterwards you need to regenerate and recover. And maybe recovery is just as important as the time you're spending in the gym. So what I'm getting at here is the fundamentals. Doing the deep reading is important, actually understanding what the stress response is. But also then, once you know what the stress response is, if you're trying to teach it to other athletes, using analysis that makes sense for that athlete can be really helpful.
All right. Yeah, that's a great tip. Thank you so much, Kenneth. And I think quite a lot of the questions that have been asked we have covered earlier. So I think one more main question that was someone asked was some time management tips. I think also quite a similar situation where she has a lot on her plate and she's trying to juggle many things at once. So how would she better manage her time in that sense? Do you have any tips for anyone who is struggling with time management?
Yeah, sure. Okay, not really from a physiological perspective, but there's a great book called How to Say No, and that can offer ways for individuals to prioritize, to not say yes to everything that's being asked of them, and because quite often I know that I can relate to this question. When we have so many demands placed upon us, we say yes to quite a lot of things. And then we find ourselves in a situation where we feel trapped because we've committed to so many activities. But if we can sit down and reflect and consider what's most important, it means that if you have the resources and the skills to say no in a really diplomatic way to the things that don't matter, that are not important to what you want to achieve, you can fully focus on the things that you do want to achieve. It's again, there's no straightforward answer to this. The resource that we'll paste in the link wherever this is being posted on the books that will help can be helpful. But it's looking at what you're being offered, what you're committing to, and seeing if that aligns to your bigger purpose. So, Sophie, I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming your purpose is to win as many gold medals as you can.
I'd like to achieve as high of a level for in competition that I can go. So my goal currently is to go to the Paralympics, and it'll be really great if I can reach the finals. And ultimately, yes, I would like to win a medal one day. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you're very clear about what your goal is. So that's very clear for you. But for many of us, our goal is not clear. For many of us, we don't reflect on what we actually want. And for those who are dialing in, maybe ask yourself that question: what actually do I want? And let's say if my answer is, I want to lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks. It's good to ask the 5 whats after that. If I lose 10 kilos, what will that get me? And maybe losing 10 kilos gives me more energy. Well, if I have more energy, what will that get me? If I have more energy, maybe I won't be tired every day and I can spend more time with my wife. And if I can spend more time with my wife, what will that get me? Well, that'll get me a deeper connection to my family. And one of your strengths was love. And that's tying into that. But what I'm getting at is, for those of us on the call who are not sure about where our destination is, what we want to achieve, reflecting on what that is can be important. And then seeing, if you're saying yes to a task, does it help you get you closer to that destination, to that goal? Or is it just busy work? And if it's busy work, maybe you can diplomatically say no.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. I think that's a really, really great tip. Thank you so much, Kenneth.